What are business cases in the first place? Organizations use business cases to help them solve their problems. The main goal of business cases is to help your stakeholders, your executives, your directors, your leaders, your managers, whoever you are drafting business cases for, is to help them make a business decision. You will have an opportunity to demonstrate your creative skills, your innovation, your critical thinking, your problem-solving skills, your research, and simply help you pull together your findings in a quite clear, concise, and structured way. I have seen over the last 10 years many different business cases that were presented in many different formats and presented in many different approaches. But when you actually go on Google and try and find as to how to pull together one, you will find many articles that really try to give you different versions as to what business cases are all about, with some of them not even offering you a template or a toolkit as to how to do it. Business cases are very unique and they have to be adapted to every situation. So I personally don't think you can find a one-size-fits-all template. It has to be really adapted to the situation you're dealing with, to the problem you're trying to solve, and therefore, as a result of it, I actually decided to create a business case toolkit that you can download from my digital store and will be part of my upcoming HR business partner course, where you can learn in a bit more detail as to how to deal with business cases requests, or when you are yourself proposing to look at an issue or a problem through a business case lens. There are many ways and examples as to when you could get involved in drafting a business case. Sometimes you could be a lead, which means you have to draft and pull it together on your own. Of course, you would have to speak to other team members to help you pull it together. Technically, you wouldn't be on your own, but you would be a lead in terms of pulling it together, drafting it, presenting it back to the relevant group. Or sometimes you could be a contributor to a business case, in which case someone else is a lead, but you are contributing to their business case by reviewing what they've come up with and you giving your own angle, your own views and insights as to what else they could pull together or put in their business case. Typical examples would be when your HR director asks you to look at a particular organizational issue by drafting a business case. Sometimes your directors or executive leads or senior leadership team members, your partner directly, may need to look at a particular organizational issue and they ask you to lead on pulling together a business case where they want to see a couple of options presented for them to decide which ones is best to deal with that particular issue. Sometimes a senior leadership team member could be a lead for a particular business case, in which case you would be asked to contribute to their business case, especially in those examples and aspects where there are people issues, where your views and knowledge and experience and creativity really need to come to life, and for you to help them read their business case, review it, give them feedback, anything really you can do for you to also be part of that business case. Sometimes you yourself may have lots of ideas as to how your department or portfolio or organization could deal with a number of issues or a particular issue, in which case you may decide to use a business case format to present back a couple of options based on your research, insights and knowledge as to how they could deal with that, where you just need to help your relevant stakeholder group, senior leadership team member, really make a decision as to how they could tackle a particular issue. And finally, sometimes organizations appoint external consultancies to pull together business cases for them. And in my experience, this is due to external consultancies having access, knowledge, insights about particular sectors and organizations. Sometimes organizations want to really discuss as to how other similar organizations or competitors are structured, or how they do their business delivery, whatever it is that they need them to look at. And it was actually quite fantastic to see how they do that, how they facilitate certain workshops and how they pull together business case reports back to the executive team to make and select the best option for the organization. For those of us who are HR business partners, we are very likely to be dealing with business cases where there is a capability review of a particular team or department, when we have to look at structures or restructures, when we have to look at organizational design. Sometimes we have to ask for a growth of a particular department. Sometimes certain teams have to get reduced, in which case, again, you would need to look at pulling together a business case with a number of options as to how that could be dealt with. These are the typical examples I have been a lead for or part of when it comes to my contributions or me leading on pulling together business cases to really help my executive lead or director or relevant senior leadership team make a decision as to how they could deal with a particular issue. Before you simply embark on drafting business cases, always double check if your current organization uses a particular template or a particular process as to where certain business cases have to go to. Business cases will vary in size and scale. And this is what I mean by that there is no one size fits all. Business cases will have to look at particular issues and you will have to adapt your thinking and approach as to how to deal with that. Sometimes it could be you need to look at a very small team as to how they could be more efficient, more productive, more effective. Sometimes it could be that you have to look at the whole of department as to how they're structured, in which case you need to have a proper business case with lots of different options. And I think a delivery point is actually quite important. Sometimes certain stakeholders need to look at a business case and there is no need to set up a project team to deliver against a preferred option. But sometimes if it's a major restructure and capability review where you would have to potentially pull together a project team to help you with delivery of that option. So that's what I mean by there is no one size fits all. Sometimes you will just be on your own and you will have to deliver whatever that is you need to do. And sometimes you would need a team to help you with certain option deliveries. In summary, most business case templates or presentations I've seen to date would have following sections: executive summary section, background section, options or recommendations, and project section, which is in my view optional section as to how all these options or recommendations would be delivered. Executive summary section. This section should summarize a business case in such a way that a reader who knows nothing about the business case would really understand and quickly grasp in high-level terms as to what the business case is all about and what is the preferred option to deal with that particular business issue. This section is usually drafted last once the rest of the business case sections are completed. When summarizing this section, think about what and why, how and when. What or why is all about what is the problem statement. You need to be able to really summarize it in a couple of sentences. Then you proceed with how, which is all about options that have been submitted, how many, and which one is a preferred option or recommended option for the reader to look at. But you summarize the preferred option because later on in the business case, they could read the relevant detail. The final bit is when, which is all about timescales and urgencies as to how long would it take and how urgent it is for them to be able to make the right decision. It needs to be crystal clear on the problem statement, big picture, easy to understand. Think of it as an elevator pitch where you have 60 seconds to really summarize as to what you're trying to deal with, what are the solutions, and what are the next steps. You want your reader to feel like they really understand it. There is no ambiguity as to what the business case is all about, and there are no further questions to be asked. When it comes to your background section, background, as it says, it should really summarize and explain to the reader as to why we're here in the first place, why we are looking at this particular business issue through business case lens. In this section, you can also elaborate a bit more on the problem statement, key objectives, and key aims as to why this is being looked at now. Key challenges and key drivers for the change. Scope of the business case, as in what's in scope of the business case and what's out of scope of the business case to minimize any confusion and ambiguity as to what is being looked at in detail. Options section is the most important section of any business plan. On average, you would have 3 to 5 options being presented and looked at in more detail. Most options I've seen would have the following sections. Option high-level description, which is really the name of your option. Option summary description, this is where you really go into more detail as to what your option is all about. Impacted stakeholders, departments and customers as a result of this option. It would be good to confirm as well as to whether you've talked to them about this option or not for their views. Time to implement, as in how long would it take you to implement this option. Advantages and disadvantages associated with this option. Risks, issues, dependencies, assumptions, financial impact or costs, and benefits realization or return on investment. Option summary description, and this is where you need to go in a lot more detail, where you need to confirm as is team structure or what you're proposing to be put in place or what you are proposing in terms of the growth or reduction. And this is where you can go into some of the design principles as well, because sometimes senior leadership team members or directors may actually give you some design principles where they could say, actually, what can we do within the existing budget, in which case you know how far you can really go, or it could be they've given you a particular investment into developing some of these options. And this is where you can actually refer to those design principles to really explain to the reader as to how you came about that option and what is viable and what isn't viable. That's it for this video. If you're currently working on any business cases and you would like to discuss with me further, you can always book a call with me. Let me know if you have any questions, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye for now.